Welcome back to Party's Over. Have you ever met a guy who's not what he seems? You might be dealing with a fraudster. Erica, have you ever met one?
Unfortunately, I've met many. This is a broad topic because it encompasses a bunch of different avenues that we could take this. I think narcissism is heavily involved in this one.
100%.
So, you know, let's start with the online dating piece, right? You're seeing pictures, you're reading a little bio, a blurb. You know, the social media has enhanced what we call a fraudster. So people can show what they, you know, want people to perceive they are, right? So you have to start with, you know, looking at the pictures. Is there one picture? That's a little bit alarming. Are there multiple pictures? What's being written under it? What are the conversations like?
This is on an online dating app?
Yeah, if you find somebody online and then you take it to the next step, which is hopefully a brief text chain and then a call, a lot of times they're going to put the heavy moves on very quickly. And I think that that's the number one factor that you have to look out for.
So when you're on, because I'm not on a dating app, but if you're on a dating app and you're looking at a profile, so if they only have one photo?
Sometimes if there's one photo, that can be very alarming. And sometimes there could be many photos and maybe they look great and they're out having a good time and they have like a nice blurb written. Once you start talking to these people, they may come at you very strongly and in a way that you are like, wow, I really want to meet this guy. He sounds great. And for a period of time, they may very well be great because they're going to be narcissistically love bombing you and taking you to great places and showing you great things, buying you some nice gifts. If that is happening to you early on, there is a problem. And you have to be able to pick red flags out to be able to actually decipher what you're dealing with, you know? And in addition to that, I think that as you're getting to know somebody, let's say in the first 6 months, you need to ask questions. What were their past relationships like?
100%.
How quickly did they move on from past relationships and how many? You know, what's their family upbringing like? Important questions that will help decipher. You know, I mean, I don't know. You could also look at it in a way where, you know, if they start asking you, hey, for money at a certain point, or they want to get access to some of your personal accounts, that's a problem. That's intrusive.
Somebody would ask to have access to your personal accounts that early on?
Look at Tinder swindler.
Oh, the Tinder swindler, that's true. So I know of a scenario where somebody that I went out with, I didn't have this experience with him, but because it wasn't serious. The next person that he got involved with, he very quickly, he first pretends that he's very wealthy, which he isn't. And then from there, but there are so many signs because he doesn't own a car, he doesn't have a nice apartment. He does, however, have nice artwork in the apartment, which now I'm beginning to think maybe isn't real. And paid for dates, even though he doesn't take girls to like extravagant restaurants, but was paying for dates just to kind of reel the person in. Where for me, it didn't really work as well because it wasn't serious, but the next person, it became serious. Reels her in, and then all of a sudden starts wanting to spend all this time with her, wants her at the apartment all the time, wants her to start doing his laundry, wants her to start stocking the refrigerator, which he wasn't paying her back, wants her to start taking his dry cleaning. Then from there went into a scenario where he paid for, an example, he paid for part of a trip for them, but then wanted her to contribute. And then another incident, they're at dinner with his mom, and the bill comes, and he wants her to pay for the dinner, which is $600 for 3 bottles of wine that she didn't drink.
Right.
So that's kind of a fraudster because in the beginning he portrayed, oh, I have all this money and I'm from this family, and the only reason I don't have a car is because I don't like to drive because I had a DUI when I was 20.
Right. So with enough time, at the beginning, they're going to be very consistent. They're going, and that's what will reel the woman in. Oh, I had a great time with you tonight. Let's do something tomorrow. Let's do something this weekend. And it goes like that. Before you know it, they're attached to you. You feel as though you have a relationship, but it's actually not a well-grounded relationship. And then 6 months go by to a year, and then their true colors start to unravel. And there's things that start to not make much sense to you, or there's behaviors such as, in my experiences, I've known people to become heavy alcoholics, start getting heavily into drugs, acting a way that's extremely embarrassing in public. And you may want to help that person because you think that they need help, but in reality, they need somebody next to them at all times so that they look better, and then you're the one that ends up suffering.
So basically, they're just moving from one supply to the next.
Correct. And you will know that because once you're out of that relationship, if it becomes that, you will then see that they've already lined somebody up. So immediately they're with this other person, and then later on, that other person ends up contacting you. Because the same pattern occurs.
It's the same pattern. So from your experience, do you think that all fraudsters are narcissists, or do you think somebody can be a fraudster who isn't a narcissist, but they're just a con man? Or
I think they all go in hand. I think that narcissism runs the broad spectrum of all of that, and then you have to break it down from there because there's sociopathic behaviors that are involved in that too. To con, you have to have a lack of empathy to do all of those things that are maliciously harming another individual. And those are broad topics like narcissism that we're mentioning, sociopathic behaviors that we're mentioning, but they can be broken down more specifically into personality disorders. And if you go back in their history, especially because women are meeting these people online, they do not know who they are. And so it's very hard because as we get older and we have to date, you're not knowing what you're getting. Whereas if you're younger, you're meeting someone through other people in school, their families. So there's a lot of things that people need to take into consideration as they age and have to date, that they need to be smart and not be swindled into this kind of behavior.
And I also think these types of people prey on people who don't have a good support system, or who don't have a family, or they're very weak and vulnerable.
I don't necessarily agree. I think that they prey on the most successful people that they can find. They prey on the nice people. They prey on
the people that are empaths.
Correct. That's right. Yes.
They're empaths, but okay, let's use this as an example. You're an empath. You're with this person. They're displaying all their narcissistic behaviors or their fraudster behaviors, but you have a support system. You have your parents. You have friends that are telling you to get out. Wouldn't you think it would be better for these people to prey on people where they know they can isolate them from their friends and family, where they can really take advantage of them for the long term?
Yeah, but they end up doing that ultimately anyway because the person ends up becoming so withdrawn from the community because they're so wrapped up into taking care of their needs that they don't have time for anybody else anymore. Then before they know it, they are suffering as a person. They come out of the relationship not knowing what the heck is going on. Then they learn what has happened to them, and they've actually become a victim of a narcissistic fraudster. And they have to somehow heal themselves, and in that, they learn the concepts of what that means.
So we're talking about the fraudsters that are more narcissists, but what about the fraudsters that catfish you, where they put up a picture on social media or on a dating app, and you go and meet them, and that's not really who they are?
So that happened to me once, and actually the same person it happened to with a friend of mine. So a friend of mine met that same person. I didn't know this because we met years later, and we discovered that it was the same person. So there was a guy that had put online a picture, probably a couple of pictures of himself. He looked great, in shape, clean cut, looked nice. You get on the phone, have a great conversation, go out to meet him. He's extremely overweight, looks nothing like his pictures, and you don't even want to be sitting at a table with him.
Did you say something?
I shortened that date. I did not last very long.
What was your escape plan?
So it depends like how you want to play it. I mean, in that instance, I was very, I wasn't rude because I'm not a rude person, but I do feel that I was misled. So I was embarrassed to actually be seen out with him because I was at a place where I knew people go to that I know, and I just didn't want to be seen with him. So I kind of wrapped things up, got a drink, did not want food, and left. But I think that was a long time ago, and now, since time has gone by and I've learned a lot more, I actually had that happen when I was dating on the apps in the last 2 years, where again, a guy presented a wonderful picture of himself. We're on the phone, excellent conversation. Because there was only one picture of him, I asked him to text me a couple of recent pictures, and he did. And I had already lined up a date with him. And I said to myself, there's just no way. There's no way. And I said, this picture is not the picture that you had online. This must be a 20-year gap.
Wow.
And I can't go out with you. I'm sorry.
That's honest.
Gotta be honest.
Right? That's honest. So Eric and I used to live in Baltimore together, and I'll give you an example of what happened. This is reverse. So there was a friend, we had a mutual friend at the time, and this person was a catfish. So who she portrayed on the apps isn't really who she was. So she would go on these dates, and these guys would leave in the middle of a date. One guy, I remember, pretended like he had a stomach pain, that he said he ate gluten, and he literally ran out of the restaurant and flew back to LA. And then another guy she was with in New York, same thing. She met him in New York. He ran away from the date, and I was thinking, what's going on? Like, why are these people running away? And then we realized what she was putting online as her photos and her profile is not really who she was.
And then she was going on the date and then asking, I think, questions like, are you going to take care of me?
Oh, on the first date. But that's not really a fraudster. That was more like, that wasn't really her being a fraudster, but she wasn't presenting herself the same way.
Right.
And the guys literally ran away from the dates. I've never seen anything like it.
I remember this, yeah. But I think all in all,
both. It's like for men and for women. But at the end of the day, for our audience, if you're gonna put a photo of yourself, make sure it's you. Make sure you're just honest with who you are. And if you see the red flags early on with somebody, just walk away and walk away quickly. And there's no reason, to...
And take your time. When somebody wants to see you back to back, day after day, at the very beginning, I would be a little bit alarmed.
Beware of the love bombing.
Take your time.
Party's over.